What's up, guys, and welcome to One Take. I'm Gil, and today we're talking about The Mandalorian. I'm here with my friend Dan.
Hey.
My friend Jeremy.
Hello.
And what's going on tonight? The final episode of The Mandalorian Season 2 drops tomorrow, I believe at 3:01 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So before that, we just wanted to get together. We've been reviewing The Mandalorian every week and have sort of a hype session. Just talk about what we liked about the season so far. What are we looking forward to in the finale? What are our predictions? We're going to talk about all of that. And just to kind of get into things and set the tone for the evening, I thought we could start out with a few Star Wars jokes. What do you think, Jeremy?
I didn't come prepared with any, but
don't worry.
Listen to some.
I've got you covered.
I have a bad feeling about this.
I feel like you guys are going to be able to guess the answer to a couple of these. I'll throw out a couple. Maybe I'll sprinkle them out throughout the evening.
Are these jokes or trivia questions?
A little bit of both. They're jokes, but I want to see if you can guess the punchline.
Do you guess the answer to jokes?
On One Take, you do. All right, I'm going to throw this one. Jeremy, this is coming at you. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
What is the internal temperature of a tauntaun? Lukewarm.
Ooh,
lukewarm.
That's good. That's good. Okay.
Nice.
I've got another good one, but first let's jump to the chat and welcome. We have a bunch of people in the chat. Dalton, Brandon, Cole, 332nd Silver, CT294, Nando, Mike Rapp, welcome all of you to the chat. I see you've already thrown out a few questions. We'll definitely get to those and keep them coming. In the meantime, Dan, I've got one for you, and then we'll get to some of these questions in the chat.
Let's do it. I'm ready.
I think you're going to get this one. Why did episodes 4, 5, and 6 come out before episodes 1, 2, and 3?
Because
you're already wrong. Already
were
wrong.
set a long time before in a I don't know.
Wow.
Why?
Because in charge of directing Yoda was. Come on, it's a classic.
Yeah, how could I not have gotten that one?
All right, let's. I've got like 25 more of these. We should just keep going, right?
Yeah, keep going. Hey, we could do this till 3:01 a.m. at this rate.
Let's start with Jeremy. Can you give your ranking, seasons 1 and 2? How do you rank the seasons so far?
You know what? I'm riding that recency hype train again, but I think season 2 has been even better than season 1. I did enjoy season 1 a lot, obviously, but I think if we were to look at a strictly binary basis, which season had more episodes that I liked, it would be this one. So I'll go season 2.
Yeah, same for me. I think I can't say that for sure season 2 had higher highs than season 1, but I would say that in terms of consistency, season 2 wins out for me. Because, I mean, we've gone over it so many times on this show, but season 1 had that mid-season dip, episodes 4, 5, and 6, when we were just getting used to the standalone nature of the show. And as I've said multiple times, I'm fine with standalone, totally fine with standalone adventures. I just felt these particular adventures weren't that strong. So for me, season 2 wins out. What about you, Dan?
Well, as you know, the prisoner escape was my favorite episode of all time. But so I have to give a slight edge to... No, so I agree. I think season 2, I think at this point, my top 3, if not top 5, well, top 3 probably episodes of the whole series so far are all in season 2. I really did enjoy the last 2 episodes of season 1. I thought that was a great, kind of a multi-part finale. But yeah, this season has, with exceptions, been pretty exceptional, I think. So yeah, I'm on season 2 bandwagoner.
Chime in the chat, by the way. Do people agree with us, or is there mass exodus happening right now? Season 2, I'm out of here. Let's talk about what are you most excited to see in the finale tomorrow. And we're just a few short hours away from it. I think 5 hours, less than 5 hours. Who's getting up at 3 a.m. to watch?
Way more than 5, but that's fine.
No, it comes out 3 a.m., right? 4, hey, you're right. What are you talking about? All right, so what are you most excited for, Jeremy, in tomorrow's finale?
I mean, there's so many different things I feel like that could happen. Like it's a very, I don't know how to answer that question in a very specific way. I mean, I'm excited to see what the attack against Moff Gideon looks like. I feel like in the same way that he, that Mando reversed the speech that he got from Gideon in the last episode, I feel like it's kind of there on the offensive this time around. So it'll be almost like the opposite of the standoff that we had at the end of the previous season. So I'm excited to see, I guess that.
Yeah. I'm excited for, how excited are you to see how they pay off Grogu's Jedi call? Or do you think we're going to get the payoff this episode?
I think we'll get something. Yeah, I don't know. I do think we'll. I do think we will get a payoff. Because it just seems like such a thread to leave dangling if we don't get a payoff. So yeah, it'll probably. I mean, if I had to predict, it'll.
Wait, don't predict yet. No, we're not at predictions yet. We have to stick to the program, Jeremy.
Good thing you don't have to.
Well, no, sorry. I wasn't going to predict my specific who I think will answer the call.
Okay, go ahead.
I think it will be like they will be backed into a corner that seems unescapable, and then the call will be answered by who? I don't know. Maybe I'll answer that later. I'm not sure.
I predict. Dan, we'll go to you in a second, but first I want to address some of the folks in the chat. Brandon Poland says season 2 has been amazing. Favorite thing Star Wars since Empire?
Wow. Yeah, I mean that's high praise. That's high praise.
Is Empire your favorite Star Wars thing, Dan?
Oh man, I definitely really enjoy Empire. I think it's one of those things where as a kid I didn't appreciate it nearly as much as I do now, just from a storytelling perspective. I actually watched just yesterday, I think, Star Wars put up on Instagram like a behind the scenes thing about Empire Strikes Back. That was really interesting. Yeah, it's a great one. I think it's like objectively the best like film,
right?
It's like storytelling that Star Wars has offered. I do have a soft spot for Force Awakens in particular. These past 5 years, I thought that was like a pretty exciting kind of reawakening of the franchise. But and I also somewhat controversially am very much on team Last Jedi being actually a pretty good movie. I know I've gotten into some arguments with some friends about that one, but I stand firm. But yeah, no, I'm really enjoying this so far. I think season 2 has definitely taken it to the next level. I love where Jon Favreau, Dave Filoni, and company have taken the story. So I'm all in on the Mando train. I was a little unsure midway through season 1 if they were gonna, really knock it out of the park, and I think it's been pretty self-explanatory this season. So.
Well, so same question I asked Jeremy earlier. What are some of the things you're excited to see in the finale in more than 5 hours, as we established?
Yeah. So I think the kind of one thing that I feel very confident we're going to get in the finale is a Mando versus Gideon like duel, Beskar staff versus Darksaber. I think it would be absurd if they didn't do something like that in some way, and so I think that'll be pretty cool. I'm curious to see what the result of that is. And I am not as excited for what I think will be the kind of the setting of the entire or most of the episode, which will just probably all be on the ship. I kind of think that, the whole plot of the heroes infiltrating the Imperial ship we've seen it in like 30 different eras at this point. So I'm hopeful that we get that, but I'm hopeful that we also get more than that. And other things too. I don't know how, but that's my. Yeah,
I wonder if since Moff Gideon got the message from Mando last episode, does he head somewhere? Is there anywhere safer you can be than an Imperial starship? Like he goes to some planet to hide out, and that ends up being the setting for the episode. I'm not sure, but you and I had the same thing. I wrote down a few things that I'm excited for. Seeing who responds to Grogu's Jedi call, just out of pure curiosity. That's kind of the mystery box element we have right now. I'm curious what the setup is going to be for next season. Season 1, it was Grogu needs to be taken back to the Jedi. So we knew that was going to be the journey in season 2. What comes next in season 3? Then I want to see what Moff Gideon is capable of. I feel like he's been such a tease the last couple of seasons. I want to see what Moff Gideon and the Dark Troopers are capable of, and I'm excited to see that. But then number 1 is I'm hoping for an epic Mandalorian spear versus Moff Gideon dark saber in the finale. I want them to really surprise us by giving us a duel that can fit among the many awesome lightsaber duels we've had in the Star Wars franchise. That would be really cool.
Yeah. I definitely think it's possible. And, they made they made a pretty big splash of the season premiere this year. It was like a 10-15 minutes longer than all the other episodes. So I have a feeling they're not gonna hold anything back, and they'll kind of empty the tank with the finale, especially since we got to wait another year till season 3.
That's right. They already announced season 3 is December 2021, right?
Yeah, I think it's like right around Christmas.
And do we know if any of the spin-off shows, any of the other Star Wars shows are going to happen between now and then? Or I don't know if they've announced release dates for all that stuff yet.
I don't think so.
Damn.
Yeah, I think Mando season 3 is the kind of first Star Wars thing on the docket next year. It's sort of been the only Star Wars thing on the docket for the last couple of years. So they've really given it its time to kind of grow into itself.
It's funny. A while ago, it might have been Kathleen Kennedy, but somebody in the Star Wars world made the comment, we're going to slow Star Wars down a little bit over the next few years.
Yeah.
It turns out that was a little bit of misdirection.
Yeah.
So did you guys do your homework for picking out top 5 favorite moments of the season so far?
I've got 4.
I wrote down 5.
4? Are you saving a slot for the finale?
I got 5. That's true.
Okay, well, let's go through them. Let's just I figure we'll do rounds. We'll do number 5. We'll each say our 5th one, then we'll do 4, and then 3. You can see where I'm going with this, counting down to number 1. And then honorable mentions if you have any. Yeah, we're going to flip it around. Narcissistic Dog in the chat, by the way, sent us a frog emoji, and maybe this is a prediction that we'll see Frog Lady or Frogman return. When I asked, what are we most excited for in the finale? I think Narcissistic Dog is looking for Frog, Man, or Lady to make a return. Maybe we'll see their offspring.
I mean, they did establish that story thread, so you never know.
Also, Mike Rapp in the chat asks, can Beskar withstand a Darksaber?
I hope we find the answer to that question.
Yes. I'm going to guess that yes, it can, because we saw them use that. Did we see that spear actually get used in the Jedi episode?
Yeah.
Yeah, we did, right?
Yeah, the magistrate fought Ahsoka with
That's
lightsaber.
right, yeah. So
that was a pretty cool moment.
Yeah, boy, that's like definitely among the...
I'm going to add that to my honorable mentions quickly. All right.
It was such a memorable moment. He forgot all about it.
Top 5 best moments of The Mandalorian Season 2, starting with number 5. Number 5, Dan, why don't you kick it off?
Well, I didn't exactly rank mine, but I'll go for it. I think number 5 for me, this is kind of an odd choice, but it really stuck in my mind. I love the scene in the first episode. I like that first episode, the Western vibes. I love the moment Mando rides into town, into Mos Pelgo. The music, just the kind of sleepy Western town, all looking at him. I just thought it was great. So everything about that moment, I was all about.
I almost picked a very similar moment, but when I think it was after that episode, it was the beginning of an episode after Mando had lost a bunch of stuff and had to walk back to town. I forget the exact context of it.
Yeah, that was 2.
Okay, episode 2, also very Western vibes, and I just remember that moment just sticks out to me. And I wanted to pick it, and then there were so many moments like that, I didn't know which one to pick, so I didn't make the cut. And by the way, Color of the Sky asks, where is the countdown? Brett asks, what time does it come out tonight? So that the episode comes out at 3:01 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So we're not exactly counting down to it. This is more of a... what's the right way to describe this? It's like it's not a literal countdown.
Just a hype session.
Excited?
It's a hype session. Exactly. Yeah. We're getting excited.
We got nothing else to do, so we're going to talk about Mandalorian.
Jeremy, your number 5 best moment of the season so far.
I will give a brief disclaimer that I kind of went all over the place. In some instances, I picked like a full scene, and in others, it was like a tiny moment. So for 5, I picked the moment near the end of the most recent episode where the seismic charge is released, just because it was such a fun little like button on the thing, and it's a very specific moment instead of a big scene, but it was one of the many times this season watching the show that I was like, oh man, yes, this is awesome. And that was my reaction there. And yeah, so that's my number 5.
Yeah, that was a great moment. The action in that episode was also kind of snuck up on me. when they were on their way into the refinery, this is a different moment, but when they were on their way into the refinery and the pirates showed up, I figured, oh, this is just a minor obstacle for them on their way into the refinery. And then it ended up being an awesome action sequence, one of my favorite of the season. But that moment definitely stands out. That was awesome. And I didn't get the reference that it was something we'd seen previously, but just viscerally on its own, I thought that looks so cool. My number 5 moment was when Grogu steals the cookies and eats them in the classroom. I figured
Navarro, what is it called? Navarro Nubby, like Navarro.
Yeah, they were like $50 at Williams-Sonoma or something. Yeah.
So ridiculous.
Macaroons or macarons, it sounded like either pronunciation was sort of acceptable.
That's right.
But I figured there had to be one funny Baby Yoda Grogu moment on the list. That's the one. I'm not saying it's the best one, but that is the one that sticks out to me the most. Runner-up would be when he electrocutes himself. But maybe that was almost a little too silly, but it made me laugh. So it was an honorable mention for me.
That's a good call. I have to rearrange my list now in a hurry
to quickly take that out of the number 1 slot.
Right. Is it my turn, I guess?
Yeah, number 4, Dan.
All right. So I really liked this moment. You kind of just alluded to it. I really liked the moment in the most recent episode when Mando and Mayfeld are bailed out by TIE fighters and Imperial troops, and they are given the hero's welcome in the Imperial base. I thought that moment, the music, again, Gil, steal your line, but just everything about the way that moment played, it was just really complicated and kind of interesting in a way that Star Wars isn't usually. Mm-hmm. We talked about it last time about the kind of gray areas of, who are the good guys, who are the bad guys, and I thought that moment really captured everything about last episode that worked well was right in that moment. So. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that kind of brought together, that is a great example of why I think we liked that episode so much. It got a little bit into murkier territory, and that was such a visceral way to show it. TIE fighters to the rescue, heroes welcomed by stormtroopers. So it didn't make my list, but not a bad choice, Dan. Jeremy, what about you? Your number 4 best moment of the season so far?
Well, for number 4, we briefly alluded to it earlier. I did go with the duel from the Jedi episode, the Ahsoka against the magistrate. There, it was just such a cool setting. It was so unique compared to other lightsaber duels that we've seen in the Star Wars canon. It looked really cool. It was like built up very nicely within the episode. I know we had a little bit of a debate on whether or not we liked the back and forth of the duel and also Mando's kind of gunslinger face off at the same time, but it worked for me. I really liked it. So yeah, the duel. And I mean, who doesn't like a duel? How could you have a lightsaber duel and not end up in your top 5? So that's where I landed on that. It's number 4.
You alluded to the reasons why it didn't make my top 5, because I did like the duel. I liked the flashes of it we saw, but to me it was just offset a little bit by the Michael Biehn, that's his name, right? Yeah, Michael Biehn Mandalorian face-off, where it was just the cheesiest lines possible.
Who's gonna win? Yeah. My side?
Could be me. Could be you. I don't know.
How is that in the same realm? How is that written by maybe the same group of people that wrote the scene from the last episode where they're at the table, which maybe also pops up on my list, but whatever. It is crazy to contrast them. But it didn't, it worked for me still. I get what you're saying.
Yeah. No, if they weren't cutting back and forth, I think that would have made my list. And to be fair, when they cut to the Mandalorian standoff, I did like the fact that you heard the duel in the background.
Yeah.
That's just a cool little detail. And the sound of the Beskar steel hitting the lightsaber, that was a really nice touch.
Get used to that. We're going to hear a lot of it, I think, tomorrow at 3:01 a.m.
That's right. For me, number 4 was Ahsoka Tano, but her introduction. When we see her in the cold open, the sneaky way she was fighting. It was the first time we saw, besides the Darksaber, the first time we saw a lightsaber on the show. So that was exciting. On top of that, it was just, even though I don't watch the animated series, just through the grapevine, I've become familiar with the character. I was so curious how she was going to translate to live action, and I thought she looked awesome. So there's the visceral moment where she pops up on screen, you get the lightsabers, and then they show us something a little different because it wasn't her just plowing into a bunch of enemies and ripping them apart. It was the Batman-like sneak attacks. So what an awesome introduction, especially since the first half of the season, I was kind of hungry for a good supporting character. I bring it up all the time, but nobody has risen to the level. I always forget his name, Dan. Queel.
God damn it, Kel.
I know. I miss Queel. And just seeing a character where the moment we meet her, I say, I want to watch more of this character. I want to learn more about her. It got me really excited for the episode. It was a great cold open.
You want to maybe watch a standalone limited series to learn more about her, perhaps?
I know, it totally worked on me. I know.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, Brandon in the chat says, Clone Wars is so good. Took me way too long to give it a chance, thinking it would be too goofy. But I have heard great things about Clone Wars. People have told me it's their favorite series of all time. And have any of us, this is shameful, have any of us on the chat here, or any of us in this conversation here actually watched the Clone Wars TV series?
I've watched probably about like a season of it total, not just from, having it on Disney Plus. I've watched, and then before that I'd caught a little bit of it here and there. I definitely didn't like dislike it or anything. I just haven't. I think I constantly get overwhelmed by how much of it there is, and also that there's some like order that you're supposed to watch it in that is not the order that it is listed in on Disney Plus. So
that's pretty meta
hurdles because they released it in a weird order for some reason. Anyway, but yeah, I mean, I've liked everything I've seen. But yes, totally full of shame that I have not watched the entire thing, and I'm talking about the Mandalorian like I know what I'm talking about.
Shame. What Game of Thrones reference?
There it is. What's that? I've never seen that.
Okay, well, with that, let's go to our number 3 moment. Dan.
Yeah, so for me, kind of, the first solid supporting character I think we got this season was in episode 3, Bo-Katan. I'm really, I'm really curious to see what we get next with her. I know we're going to talk about that, but I really like the moment in that episode when they rescue Mando and Grogu, and then they all take off their helmets. I think that was a huge turning point in the show's arc, in Mando's personal arc, even in this season, as we've seen. And it was a surprise. And I thought that it was a great way to introduce a new character. And I just keep thinking about that shot when they just right then and there just all take off their helmets. So that's my number 3.
Dan. You stole my number 3. I had the same moment for me.
It's about a number 3. Yeah, it's like a top 3.
And it was everything you pointed out, but I'll add just a couple of things. Not to sound like a broken record, but the music in that moment was awesome. There was a sort of almost techno theme that popped up every time Bo-Katan and her crew showed up, and really memorable song. Plus, like you alluded to, it led into the whole gray area that we hadn't really seen in the first season. The idea that Din Djarin is part of a sort of sect of Mandalorian that cling to the old ways of the Mandalorian. And apparently a lot of other people, including Bo-Katan, have moved on. They take off their helmets. And that was such a cool concept that we came back to throughout the season. I think we'll continue to come back to it. And great moment on its own, and it led to some awesome places. So that was my number 3. Jeremy, what about you?
I unfortunately cannot make it 3 in a row on that. I did have that moment as an honorable mention, and it was a great moment, but I did not make it 3 for 3 there. For 3, I picked one that I feel like maybe you guys probably picked as one of your 2 remaining ones, and that is when we get to see Boba Fett in action for the first time, kind of laying waste and bits of armor flying everywhere. Not a very deep cut by me, not a very unique and off the board pick, but it was just such an awesome moment. It's a character that people have liked for such a long time, and we haven't seen him do stuff like that ever. And to have him come back, and it was just so well done. Like the stakes were so high with a character like Boba Fett, and it just feels like they absolutely crushed it, and including literally crushed it, because it was so visceral, it was so intense. It was really like a satisfying action sequence to watch. I'm not even really that big, which sounds weird talking about Star Wars. I'm really not that big of like an action sequence person necessarily, but this one was just so cool, and like everything from the staff stuff to the rockets out of the knee and the like shooting the guy without looking at him at the end. Just really, really awesome. You know what? Maybe I should have made it my number one. I feel like
I was going to say, yeah, man, what's your number one?
Yeah, I blew it. I don't know. I tried to get too cute with the list. Maybe that should have been number one.
Number one was when Grogu,
Frog Lady and Frogman.
Yeah,
when Grogu ate the eggs.
Yeah, it's the spiders.
Spider 1 and Spider 2.
It's everything from Amy Sedaris that's my number one.
I was gonna say, yeah, Peli Motto. No love for Peli Motto.
By the way, I have to shout out Fernandez T. He's a fan and he's watched a lot of our live streams on repeat, but I think for the first time he made it in live. So welcome, Fernandez. I also have to call out that he agrees with the point I made on our last episode where what's his name? Bill Burr. He ends up killing a bunch of potentially innocent stormtroopers right after complaining about all his random stormtroop brothers that got killed in the past. And I've got to agree with that. Though at least we established that he may not have killed as many as we thought, right? The explosion at the end of the episode, he might have just been exploding some bombs, not actual people. Yeah, Jeremy, why are you laughing?
Not a big enough explosion to kill stormtroopers, but big enough to plausibly suggest that maybe he was killed by Cara Dune, killed in the Inferno by Cara Dune. So kind of splitting hairs, but yeah.
All right. Well, with that, we're down to our top two moments, but maybe we should build up some suspense. So what do you say?
Commercial break first.
How about a fun fact? Yeah? All right.
Yeah, let's do it.
So we've talked on this show sometimes about who's in the Mandalorian suit, right? Is it Pedro Pascal? Sometimes you see his chin. Is it his chin? So I did a little bit of digging, and it turns out that more often than not, it's not Pedro Pascal wearing the suit. It'll be one of his stunt doubles. One of those stunt doubles is Brendan Wayne. Jeremy, do you know who Brendan Wayne is?
Son of Bruce.
Bruce's son. God damn it.
You guys are on the right track.
Really?
John Wayne's grandson.
What? Oh, that's cool.
And by the way, this is also a good time to introduce my little brother, who has been on the show once before, back when we used to do One Take Daily. And he's going to join us to talk about Mandalorian. Daniel, welcome.
Thank you.
And Oliver J in the chat says, and how long does it come out? So at about 3:01 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And move over to that way a little bit. I'm going to try and center us. Normally my tech guy would be here and tell us what to do, but he's working right now. There we go. Now you're off screen. Perfect. Wait, why don't you look over there and you figure it out? Let's go back to the list after that interruption. So, our number two moment.
So for me, I'm going to go back to pick up a thread you laid down earlier, Gil. Mm-hmm. I really enjoyed seeing Ahsoka come to life, and for me, her intro in the cold open of that episode was great. But I also really liked, kind of oddly, I really liked the extended dialogue scene between her when she and Grogu were kind of communicating telepathically, and the music in that scene was great. The way the big full moon behind them, I just thought that was a really great moment. It kind of, it just it's something about it. It kind of struck a chord. It brought back the kind of mysticism of the Force and the Jedi into this series that doesn't go all in on that. So I thought it was nice, and I was invested just like that.
That was a great scene, and it was. We'd seen in this season, I think we commented on it a few times, that Baby Yoda or Grogu had started to become a little bit more vocal. They introduced that purring sound he started to make more often, and then that scene, that was kind of the auditory sound he made while he was communicating telepathically with Ahsoka. And I like that scene. It didn't make my list or my honorable mentions, but good choice, Dan.
Yeah, just so much backstory, so much we got his name. He finally was named. So I think it was a pretty, as far as exposition dialogue scenes go, I think it was pretty memorable and pretty significant. So,
Jeremy, what about you? Any thoughts on that choice?
It wasn't on my list, but it also is a really good choice. And I agree. Dan used the word exposition, and those scenes are so often super dangerous and can feel boring and cheap. But I think it worked really well there, and it was information that we had all wanted for a while. Is there a name? Can we get more background information on Baby Yoda? And we get like a ton at the same time in a way that I think like organically made sense. So yeah, I agree. I think that's a very good choice, and I would throw it in I should have thrown it in my list. That's how I feel about it.
Actually, in my honorable mentions, I did have the moment where Ahsoka tells Mandalorian that she won't be able to train Grogu. Just because I really liked when Mando finally got Grogu to grab the ball using the Force, and just how much he sounded like a proud father, but then that gets undercut moments later by Ahsoka saying, I can't train him. I think the reason I didn't put it on my list is because that is such the trope of the Jedi, that no Jedi is actually worthy of being trained. It's always that they're too emotionally vulnerable, they're too attached to someone. So that kind of, that wore the novelty off a little bit, but at least it made my honorable mentions. Daniel, what about you? You've been quiet. What did you think? Do you have any favorite moments you want to shout out from Mandalorian?
Not at the moment, but I wanted to check if you gave Fernandez a shout out yet.
Not yet.
I missed that.
I welcomed Fernandez to the chat, but he gave a very generous super chat. I think our second super chat ever. So Fernandez, thank you so much. He says, this is for the hours of entertainment you have provided me and for your Dances with Wolves reviews. I think he meant Raised by Wolves. That got him hooked on the channel. He said, keep up the good work and thank you to you and your crew. And Dan and Jeremy, I'll give you a little bit of the that super chat here. I'll give you a couple bucks from that.
Hey.
Wow.
Nice.
Much obliged. Dances with Wolves is a fine film, also won the Oscar, obviously. So
it's Kevin Costner, right?
It is.
All right.
I only accept calamari flan though. So
if that moment happened in season 2, it would be on my top 5 list here. I can only pay you in calamari flan. Okay, so we're on our number 2 moment right now, right?
Yeah.
Okay, Jeremy, did you go yet?
I did not.
All right, number 2 moment.
I am again going to jump back to the most recent episode, and I have to go with the helmet removal scene and ensuing dialogue at the table. It was just, again, like I feel like we say things like this a lot. Like there's a lot of this series that feels unique to this as opposed to everything else in the Star Wars universe. Like I don't think we've been in a dialogue scene in Star Wars before. We're like, oh man, somebody's going to pull a gun here. Like this is about to get really violent, but we're right on the edge of it. You're not clear who's going to do what. Like it was just very, very intense. And obviously I mentioned the payoff. I kind of cheated because maybe the seismic charge moment is sort of attached to this scene too, kind of, not really, but this whole scene, it just felt like it was so tense watching it, and really, really unique to anything else in Star Wars, I thought. And like you mentioned, Gil, when we were talking about it last week, the specific, like, not just having him take off the helmet because, oh, wow, we get to see him without his helmet on, but the payoffs of being able to read his expression as he watches Mayfeld kind of ratchet things up. And it's like, oh, no, what are you doing here? We lose that a little bit, or maybe we get some kind of Michael Myers head tilt if all he has is the mask on. But it was really well done. It was so unique. And that's why it's number 2 for me.
Yeah, that was a great moment. And not to spoil my list, but I might have more to say about it later.
No worries about that.
It really made me want there to be more of Mando without his helmet on, because I do think that elevated the scene. Like you said, just seeing the look on his face, 2 moments that stick out to me. But when he first looks at Bill Burr and kind of shakes his head, like, stop whatever you're doing right now. And then when he actually pulls the trigger, just mouth agape, like, what the hell do we do now? That made the scene better in a way that I don't think would have worked if he was wearing the helmet.
I think I assume that he's always like very, very stern-faced and like cool and collected. So when he doesn't have the helmet on and he looks like he has no clue what's about to happen, it was very interesting.
Very human.
I mean, yeah, very human. Maybe he is very expressive under the helmet normally, but I guess I assume he is not.
It's funny. We've documented how many mistakes he's made over the course of, especially not only this season, but the whole show, right? Like leaving Grogu just in the worst possible place, and trusting this person, and getting roped into various side adventures. So it's like
jetpack,
right? So it's funny to think that, like, yeah, of course he knows what he's doing under there, but maybe the whole time he's just like kind of is like throwing his hands up, has no idea.
Yeah, he's just constantly muttering to himself like, "Oh shit, I don't know what to do right now." That's Brandon said the exact same thing in the chat just now. He probably makes all kinds of faces under the mask just because he can.
Just like sticking his tongue out at people he dislikes.
So my number 2 moment, Jeremy, you stole this one for your number 3, I think, but my number 2 moment was Boba Fett kills stormtroopers with his stick. Because
that's a gaffy stick, Gil.
A gaffy stick, that's right.
Gadurfy.
We've already said so much about this scene, but Mandalorian is a show that is very much about the action. So it keeps having to find ways to change the action and show us things we haven't seen. And this was a moment where I really felt that. Like you said, it used the word visceral. It was a very visceral moment. When he smashes that Goffy stick onto a stormtrooper's armor and you see shards of it go flying, it makes you feel something that you don't really get when Mandalorian shoots somebody with a laser and they fall down. So it was a great reintroduction. Robert Rodriguez was the right person to direct those scenes. So my number 2 moment, Boba Fett kills stormtroopers with a stick. Daniel, you a fan of that moment?
Yeah,
All
it was
right.
pretty good.
There you have it.
Yeah.
And now,
crowd.
our number 1 favorite moment of the season so far. Hopefully, it'll be dethroned in about, how many hours is it between now and 3 a.m.? 6.25 hours. Hopefully, it'll dethrone our number 1 favorite moment. But first, let's build up some suspense. So, Jeremy, what program do Jedi use to open up their PDF files? Dan, feel free to steal this.
This is not a joke, by the way. It's trivia.
I was going to say something with like force restart or something like that.
Acrobacta.
Anybody in the chat, feel free to jump in. What program?
I got it.
You got it. Okay, go ahead.
It's Adobe One Kenobi.
Yes, there it is. I knew you could get it. Dan and Jeremy are both. Actually, Dan, you should be ashamed because you are.
I'm a little ashamed.
You've been in like pun battles, like the way people do rap battles.
Also, I use Adobe products every single day, so I'm very ashamed.
As soon as you said Adobe, that was what made it. I wouldn't have got it if you didn't say
I opened
that,
the lid. I loosened the lid for you there.
Yes.
Yeah.
Open the tank.
Let's see. I'm
That was
trying
good,
to see.
Gil.
All right, let's do one more, and then we'll do our number 1 moment. What do you get if you mix a bounty hunter with a tropical fruit? What do you get if you mix a bounty hunter with a tropical fruit?
Scum and something. Scum and
Mandalorian.
Oh, that's better.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's actually better than the Mango Fett. Mango Fett. Oh, Mike Rapp got it before you. So that's one.
All right, well, that's
Ask him if he wants to be on the take my place next week.
I always say on One Take we've got the smartest fans, and that just proves it. All right, let's go to our number 1 best moment of the season so far.
Did we do all our honorable mentions? Should we do that?
Oh, let's do honorable mentions first. Yeah. All right, Dan, go ahead.
I was going to say I have a couple of honorable mentions. I'm kind of thinking about the comedic moments specifically. I have 2 comedic moments that I really liked. Number 1, I thought was really funny when in episode 4 when we are reintroduced to Mithril and he like sees Mando walk in and just like sprays like his like whatever his thorax or I don't know what he does, evacuates whatever he does, and he's like freaked out. I thought that was hilarious. But my favorite kind of funny gag moment I have to say was in episode 6 when he's like, I can't land on the sacred rock. We're gonna have to fly the rest of the way with the windows down. That cut to them, jetpacking through the air and Grogu's just kind of loving it. I thought that was great. So those are my honorables.
Just solid picks. I think when he evacuated or whatever is the proper term for whatever that guy did, that made me laugh. I enjoyed the jetpack moment. I don't think it got an LOL from me, but I did enjoy that moment.
I'm easy to please, obviously. So,
well, I had my number 5 moment was Grogu eating cookies, so I don't really have a leg to stand on.
Yeah, the standard's not high, right?
Jeremy, what about you? Your runner-ups.
Well, you guys both had it at number 3, but I did have seeing the helmet removal of the 3 other Mandalorians was on my honorable mentions. The moment when we all kind of danced around it with different Ahsoka stuff, but when she cuts that bell thing that was in the top of the town, that was just a really cool like visual. And then it falls off. That was really awesome. Oh, you know what? Another thing from that episode, when the droid jumps on the roof and like his back catches up with him, that was really cool. And then the moment when before we have officially met Cobb Vanth, but he comes in wearing Boba Fett's like armor, and then it's not Boba Fett. Like that was I just really liked that moment. It was so well done, and just to like set up obviously with the eventual payoff of seeing real Boba Fett at the end of that episode. It was just a really well done moment. So that was like 3
moments there. You're at the moment where he's wearing Boba Fett's armor, but also at the end when Boba Fett.
The moment is when he's wearing Boba Fett's armor. That being like a fake out was the moment. I enjoyed that.
Yeah, no, those are all solid moments. And the bell thing was so cool because this show does spectacle really well. And it always shows you that little bit that maybe you wouldn't get to see in another show. But they say when Ahsoka cuts the bell in half, this giant heavy bell, you want to see it hit the ground. You want to see it roll off the ceiling and then hit the other ground. Like you want to see all that, and they show it to us. And when the robot, you're wondering how's he going to get onto the roof, and then he does that cool thing, grabs on, like flips over. Very cool moments. For me, some of my honorable mentions, they've all been named by now, so I'll just add one more. But the Star Wars cyanide capsule, I just thought that was cool when he bites down and kind of electrocutes his face.
Gosh.
That's right. Yeah. So that was just one more moment I enjoyed.
Oh, you know what I forgot about too? There's a moment when there's like a person like brushing a Bantha's teeth. I think it's like in episode 2. That was just a dumb like. That was the first one. Yeah. It's just such a goofy, weird little thing that you would never think about. Like you would never think like, oh well, Banthas probably get their teeth brushed, but now they do. You know that they do.
Yeah, that was great. I think the first episode was pretty great. It was like almost its own like standalone kind of pod, even like within all the standalones. I thought that episode was awesome.
Speaking of pod, we also had pod racing reference in that episode, right?
That's right. Cobb Speeder.
Yeah, Cobb Speeder was using some pod racer parts that looked very much like the parts that Anakin was using.
I think it was, one of Anakin's engines, I'm pretty sure.
That was
a lot of salvage. A lot of actually Tatooine salvage that episode. He had R5, the red droid, come back into the fray. He had like a little burn marks on his on the top of his dome where the thing kind of busted into New Hope. So a lot of Easter eggs in that episode for sure.
All right, well with that, is it time for our number one?
Man, we've really stretched this out.
Best moment of the season, asterisk so far.
Yep.
All right, Dan, take it away.
Well, unoriginally, I had on my list, of course, the moment Jeremy referred to in episode 6 when we've seen the kind of return to form of Boba Fett. But I'm going to call it, an audible here and stick with it, but say that moment at the end of the first episode when we first are given the reveal of Boba watching, I thought he looked awesome. I mean, this is the first time we saw him in flesh at all. I mean, I know in the end of episode 5 in the first season, there was like the mysterious footsteps walking up to Fennec after she was killed, or supposedly killed. But just the way the suns were setting, and do you guys notice how they changed the aspect ratio on the episode? Like it went from like regular TV, like 16:9, to as I almost called him Django, as Mando was riding away into the desert, the kind of the letterbox black bars on the screen lowered to kind of make it even more anamorphic. I think in kind of like a Lawrence of Arabia kind of vibe. I thought it just was a really cool way to tease the return of this, beloved character for the last 40 years, and kind of really deliver on a long-awaited fan wish to have that character Boba Fett return. So I think that was the one moment so far this season that made me really just like kind of jaw drop. So that's got to be it.
I think that's a great pick. I think when we saw Boba Fett in action, we talked about the fact that this moment had a lot to live up to. And there are so many shows and movies that bring back legendary characters. And there's so many expectations. You don't want to just show us what we've already seen. And in this case, they gave us what we've already seen. We got the armor back, so we got Boba Fett. But on top of that, like we already alluded to, we haven't seen him be this badass before, killing people, hand-to-hand combat with the stormtroopers. So they gave us something new. They gave us something familiar. Though you guys weren't a big fan when he got the new paint job. And now he doesn't look quite like the old Boba Fett. But they did.
Honestly, I could have done with even more time of him without the armor on. Like I loved the new look with the black robes and the stick and the rifle. I thought he looked awesome. The scarred head. I was all about that. So that's a huge part of why that moment's so powerful, I think.
Have you ever watched the original introduction of Boba Fett in the animated segment of the holiday special?
I have indeed. I'm
and
not
how do you rank it? That the cartoon intro versus
you can't sleep on that, because without that cartoon in this holiday special in 1978, I don't think we would be having this conversation right now. I think that this show is 100% because of the fan obsession with Boba Fett, and that's why I think his integration into this series this way is just really, really satisfying.
Awesome. And Jeremy, anything to add to that moment before we go to your number one?
Well, just speaking of, while we're talking about Boba Fett and the original Boba Fett, I feel like we'd be remiss if we did not mention that Jeremy Bulloch, the actor who was in the suit for the original Boba Fett, passed away, I guess, earlier today or earlier this week. So obviously, a legend and a legendary character. And like Dan had just alluded to, if he hadn't done all that and somebody wasn't wearing that suit, we probably wouldn't be sitting here talking about the Mandalorian today. So a tough day for Star Wars Nation for sure. But yeah, they did a great job with everything, and it's been very fun to watch. Am I going to my number one now? Should I
go to your number one? Let's do it.
Yeah. I will say, and this is a little bit of a cop-out maybe, but I'm going to go with basically the opening scene of this season. When he is in the the place where there's that, like, the Gamorreans like wrestling each other, Morians wrestling each other rather, and we get so many moments in that. It's so awesome. Like, it reminds you exactly of who, in case you somehow forgot who the Mandalorian is and what he's about. He like strolls into town. He gets in a like little quiet whispering fighting match with this other guy. The guy shoots one of the guys in the ring. Like, so cool. Like, very cool. We even get a Grogu little meme type moment when he shuts the door of his little stroller pod thing and it closes. Like, you're 5 minutes into the new season and you know exactly what it is. You know exactly what it's about. You get the cool quick bursts of dialogue. You get the little gunfire. You get everything.
John Leguizamo.
John Leguizamo.
That's
yes,
right.
Of course.
That's Daniel. That's Luigi from the Mario Brothers movie.
There's also some cool graffiti on the walls of that city, which I thought was kind of cool.
Yeah, it was just so cool. Like, from him rolling in to him leaving the guy on like the lamppost. The old classic, you have to, I said I wouldn't kill you. I didn't say, whatever.
You will not die by my hand.
Yeah. The old poor choice of words, classic thing. But it was just really great. And I feel like that can count as a moment. I think that whole thing is probably like under 5 minutes. Is that a moment? Did I cheat? I don't know. But I really, really liked it. Sure.
Jeremy's been very concerned about the definition of moment.
He's really playing fast.
A number one beat of the whole season. And it had a wrestling ring, so I was going to like that. There was a shootout, very Western, very cool. Really liked it. Exactly what I like about this show in a 5 minute burst.
Yeah, that I didn't have it on my runner-ups, but it should have been there because I did debate putting that on my list earlier today. Because for everything you said, it was just it was classic Mandalorian, just him being competent, badass, getting out of a tight situation. Sprinkle on top of that a funny Baby Yoda moment. So that was a great scene, a great moment, if you will. Now let's go to my number one.
Can I do my number one?
Oh yeah, go ahead, Daniel.
Definitely.
Forgot you were here. Oh, by the way, Cole Schramm in the chat says and Spawn. So John Leguizamo was in the Spawn film as well. Dan, go ahead.
Grand Admiral Spawn.
My top moment was Baby Yoda eating the cookies.
Oh, that was my number 5.
Oh man, you guys must be related.
Okay, we can move on to yours
Wait,
now.
what t-shirt are you wearing? Where's your one take shirt? Why did we get all these one take shirts?
Wow.
I wore the sweater so people wouldn't know I wasn't wearing the one take shirt. Actually, I wore the one take shirt all week. I finally had to wash it today.
Well, my number 1 favorite moment of the season so far, I kind of spoiled it earlier, but from last episode, the Mayfield sequence where Mando doesn't have his mask on and Mayfield ends up shooting Valen Hess. So we kind of belabored this already, but we just haven't seen a scene with that kind of underlying tension in a while. And I just really enjoyed sitting there wondering what's going to happen next. Plus, Mando didn't have his mask on, so that just added to it. And then the release and the action that followed it, that was just viscerally one of my favorite moments. My favorite moment so far.
Am I allowed to say why that moment didn't work for me, or is that too anti-hype?
Go ahead.
All right. Well, I guess you can't say no.
Someone has to be the Grinch.
Look, I thought it was such a cool scene, so which is why I wanted to complain about it, because I thought it could have been so much better. My issue is it's Bill Burr who plays the other character.
Right.
I just was not invested at all in the Bill Burr character, and I didn't feel connected to him at all. So that just completely undercut like all of the tension. Like if I felt connected to his backstory and stuff, then I feel like I would have felt the tension building, and it would have meant so much more.
See, I did feel connected to him thanks to the groundwork they did in the episode up until that point. The conversation that he had with Mando on the drive into the refinery, we were, Dan, Jeremy, we were big fans of that whole conversation, right? It got a little bit into the gray area of these wars, these Star Wars that get fought, and we forget about the little people. So that got me connected. And then even when he started talking about that particular battle, I forget what it was called.
Cinder?
Operation Cinder, which I think is from one of the video games.
I think that's right.
But even
maybe
that gave me enough. That gave me enough to feel connected and feel the tension in that scene. And I see the way you use your phone while you watch these shows. You probably weren't paying attention.
I didn't look at my phone once.
And Brandon in the chat says that Valen actor is such a perfect fit for an Imperial officer. It's scary. There is a certain look to the Imperial officers. I think you definitely fit it too.
You know that actor was the original Night King, right? In Game of Thrones.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
Like first few times we see him.
There you go.
So yeah,
that's our second Game of Thrones reference of the night.
Cross universe reference. Yeah.
All right. Well, I think we're almost at the point we're all excited for, the predictions for what's going to happen in the finale and perhaps beyond. Before we do that, one more favorite. Let's just say, what's your favorite episode of the season? And so far, Dan.
For me, it's got to be the Jedi episode 5. I think that one for me checked all the boxes. It's a close. The episode 6 was a close second, just because of all the things we've talked about. You know, the action, Boba Fett, etc. But and just of how many story things happen in that episode. But for me, the standalone. It had its own beginning, middle, and end. The introduction of Ahsoka, all the revelations about Grogu. I thought that episode was tremendous, and it quite literally is giving rise to its own spin-off series about Ahsoka, and I'm here for it. I thought it was great. I've watched that one the most, so that one's my favorite.
Yeah, I debated making that my favorite because, we talked about a lot of the moments from that episode. It was a lot of times when it could have come off as we're setting up for a spinoff, so we're going to shoehorn in Ahsoka Tano here, but it didn't feel that way at all. And Jeremy, before we go to you, Fernandez T in the chat says, I hope they make the Empire more competent because it's hard to be excited when your adversaries are a bunch of weenies and not a threat. And we've talked about that. We have the stormtroopers are usually pretty easily dispatched. Moff Gideon, I don't know. He could be a pretty worthy adversary. We haven't really seen him do a whole lot yet. Besides, send a bunch of weenies after our main character. So,
hey, stormtroopers came through in the when they're fighting off those pirates. They really suddenly they found their aim. They got all the pirates off the bridge.
Well, kind of, because the only ship that successfully made it in was the one that Din Djarin was captaining.
Yeah.
Wait, also those weren't really pirates, right? That's what they said, but they were actually like rebels or something, right? Because they were blowing up all the resources.
Well, but they were trying to steal the explosive equipment.
Yeah,
right?
I think it was like local marauders, trying to basically push back against.
I did see that.
The
I did
plundering.
see somebody saying like on Twitter or something that like, what if they were just trying to also destroy the explosives because they didn't want?
That's what it seemed like to me.
We did talk about that. It is a big galaxy, and very oftentimes, as we've seen multiple times in this franchise, people will put on stormtrooper outfits in order to infiltrate the Empire, and they're probably not all communicating with each other. They could have killed Luke Skywalker last episode.
They
I
could.
mean, except we
No,
know,
he's-
we've seen the other
Yeah.
movies, but
He's too short, so that he would have stood out. 'Cause he obviously is
Did
a
any
little
short stormtroopers die in these episodes? We should check.
we'll have to rewind.
Mm.
Jeremy, what was your favorite episode of the season?
I also went with the Jedi. Actually, I will say it was a testament to how good this season has been that I did flip flop a few times. But ultimately, like the Jedi just had way too much awesome stuff in it to not pick. Like it looked really cool. There were so many great sequences, and also it had all these like kind of big story bombs that you get in the middle. Like we get the Grogu name and the history, and while getting like all these duels, and it's kind of a standalone thing but kind of not at the same time. So yeah, I mean there's a lot of ways I probably could have I honestly I think I maybe could have argued for every episode except probably for the second one, I guess, with the spiders and stuff. But I think the whole thing was really strong. But yeah, I ultimately had to go. I'm trying to think, was there another like one that I probably wouldn't have picked? I could have easily gone with the third one too, where we with Bo-Katan and we get all the other Mandalorians, and there was so much awesome stuff in that too. But yeah, the Jedi, like I don't know, lightsabers and duels and bells cut in half and awesome Western shootout stuff. And that guy becomes the mayor at the end for some reason. And it was great. I really liked everything about it. Like, it just was visually so cool. Like it was the most striking. There's so many elements that look like old Westerns, but I feel like this had the townspeople like creeping out as there's about to be the duel in the center of the town.
It was like high noon, like
yeah,
right in the
exactly.
middle of town.
Like there might as well have been a tumbleweed in the middle of that. It was so cool.
But then there was also a samurai movie happening on the other side of the gate.
Yeah.
So it was like it kind of had everything.
Great. Yeah, totally agree.
I feel like I had something to say there. Now I forget. But I thought that was a great episode. And actually, you've kind of turned me around. I had as my favorite, and this might just be recency, I said episode 7. Basically for all the reasons I listed before. But
Okay.
I might modify that and say my favorite moment was in episode 7, the whole Mayfield tension sequence. But as you list all the stuff that was great about the Jedi, maybe that was the best episode of the season.
And I mean, the tragedy was a really good episode
I know,
too.
hard to sleep on that one.
Yeah.
That one was the most like mind blowing. That one was like a thrill ride for me.
Except for the title.
but-
I'm not a fan of that title.
Yeah.
Just didn't think it was...
It was interesting. It was like a clickbaity title, kind of.
It
was
like
clickbaity.
tragedy. Oh my god! Like, what's gonna,
Right.
Right. So Daniel, just to catch you up, in my opinion, for something to be tragic, like almost by definition, it has to be irreversible. And Grogu being kidnapped, to me, is like, it's more of like
Yeah.
that sucks. But it's
Should've been
not
called The Bummer.
Yeah, there you go. All right, well, let's get into predictions. Let's talk about what we think is going to happen in just a few short hours. Did you guys go through my questions I had in the Google Doc? All right.
I did.
Looking at them as we speak.
Okay, amazing. Let's start with a quick one. Will Grogu speak his first words or word? And will it be Dank Farrik? Dan.
No.
Jeremy.
I wrote no goo. So also no. I just think they have too much of a good thing going with him, like only barely being able to half enunciate, and it's he's a baby, it's cute. I don't think they're going to move past it that quickly.
Yeah.
Fernandez in the chat says predictions or wishes: Grogu becomes Darkseid. Which, if that happens, I get a big pat on the back because I think I predicted that last year at some point. It could be. Has anyone seen the anime Akira?
Yes.
All right, cool. But that, it's a kid with too many powers, too much power. It could go that route. Or if you've seen the Bruce Willis time travel movie where Joseph Gordon-Levitt plays him as the younger version, that's another example of the way this show can go.
Or how about
Cooper.
Star Wars, where there's this little kid that has like a lot of power and then he accidentally. Anyway,
Never seen it.
Nice one. I also predicted that Grogu will not speak in the next episode. Daniel?
They could go the whole like Groot thing from Guardians of the Galaxy. Maybe he'll only say Grogu. Like that keeps this whole shtick going, I think.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll see. But do you think that's going to happen, or you're just saying
No.
Okay.
Definitely not.
Will Mando remove his helmet? Dan?
I think he might. Yeah, I think he might. I think they have to raise the stakes a little bit. And last season we got one brief helmet moment, and we've gotten one longer helmet moment already. I think I can see it happening. I can.
Dan, I have a text from you. You wrote this. Let's see. This was a couple months ago.
Going back to the videotape.
I want to see if you're sticking with this. Any bets on whether he loses the helmet for good by season's end? And then you followed that up with a rant about how you didn't like the way that Kylo Ren, they gave him the helmet back. You said that was, I'll never understand why JJ thought he should go back underneath. One of many baffling choices in episode 9.
Man, you're really throwing me under the bus here, Gil.
But here you said, season 3 will be fully unmasked. You heard it here first. Are you sticking with that prediction?
Yeah, I am. I think, well, maybe. Yeah, I am. I think maybe the mask will be somehow destroyed in this episode. You know, in an act to save Grogu. I don't know. They'll find a way, but I can totally see.
I'm trying to figure out the mechanics of how him destroying his helmet saves Grogu. If Grogu's about to fall into lava, he throws his helmet and catches him.
Hang on, yeah.
But there has to be a moment of hesitation. I don't know if I should take off the helmet or not.
I think.
What is Grogu's life actually worth? That's
How much
sorry, Dan. Go ahead.
One best car helmet, a Comptono. I think. I think most of, maybe not all of season 3, but I think the majority of season 3 he will be unmasked. I hope so. Maybe it'll take it'll be a slower build. I do think that's the direction. It seems sort of obvious to say, but I do think that's the arc of this character, to becoming a less zealoty, more progressive Mandalorian, shall we say.
Right. So, loosen up.
Yeah.
Jeremy, what do you think?
like a reverse Breaking Bad.
Yeah.
Kind of.
What would be the opposite of Breaking Bad? Fixing good.
Fixing good. Okay.
That'll be the title of tonight's episode.
Oh yeah, we don't know. Do we know the title?
No, we don't.
We don't know the director either. I was going to ask you.
No, we do.
I don't know if we do.
Hold on, I've got it right here. Jeremy, go ahead and I'll find the director.
I'm going to say that no, he is not going to take his helmet off. I think they did their big helmet off moment in the previous episode, so I do not think. I totally agree. There could be some kind of way that Moff Gideon tries to like use it as a gambling chip or something, but I think we got our tense moment, no helmet, and we're past it.
I think, well, first off, at least according to IMDb, Peyton Reed is directing tonight's episode.
No kidding. Really?
Yeah. I read somewhere else it's Jon Favreau, but we'll see.
Peyton Reed directed the second one, and I sort of had assumed that if there was going to be one director that did double duty this season, it was going to be one of the showrunners.
Yeah.
So
you don't sound you sound displeased.
Well, I mean, I think we can all agree episode 2 is sort of the least awesome, but yeah, we'll see. I reserve judgment.
He directed Ant-Man also, so he just loves like insect stuff, I guess.
Yeah.
We're going to see a lot of, I guess the bugs are going to be coming back in this episode. I think he's going to take his helmet off. I say final episode of the season. We've got to see Pedro Pascal, and I think it's going to be a choice. I don't think it's going to be another instance where he's forced into it because we've been building up to it. And I think my specific prediction is that it's going to almost be a sign of respect for Boba. That at the end of the season, he's going to take his helmet off and shake his hand and just kind of show we're on the same level. You know, I'm letting go of my overzealous nature a little bit.
What if he has to do it to calm down a teetering on dark side Grogu? Like in his last effort to connect with Grogu to calm him down is to take the... I don't know why that would help. It
sounds like a lot is going to happen in this episode.
I don't know how we get from here to that moment, but
I'm trying to come up with a circumstance.
I have the higher ground, Grogu.
It's over.
Mr. Doomfist in the chat says, when will the episode be released in GMT? Daniel, what time zone is that?
I don't know.
Well, I can tell you it
Greenwich
comes
Mean
out at, what's that, Dan?
Greenwich Mean Time, right? UK?
I know that's what it is, but I don't know when that is.
All right, let me look up what
What's
time
5 ahead of
GMT.
Five
So
and a half.
right now it's 2:11 a.m.
So,
So the episode
it's
comes
gonna be
out
the same time.
in
It
6
comes out at
hours.
the same time.
So 6:11 a.m. GMT. That's not right. 8:11
No.
a.m. GMT.
8:11.
8:11.
All right, so Mr. Doomfist, 8:11 a.m. GMT.
8:01.
Not 8:11.
8:01.
Oh yeah,
We're gonna
8:01.
be 10 minutes late. This whole thing's gonna be
It's
screwed.
currently that. Yeah.
Mr. Doomfist misses the first 10 minutes. All right, here we
It's the
go.
whole dark side turn.
So a few people in the chat have already asked this, but we had it on the list. Will any main characters or supporting characters, any big characters, die? Will any of them die in the final episode of the season? Daniel.
I think they'll kill the New Republic girl.
Oh, Cara Dune?
Yeah.
I don't think so.
I feel like she's given up a ton to help Mando, and that's why I feel like she'll give the ultimate sacrifice.
You don't think she-
and
you
that'll
don't-
hit hard?
That could happen. Dan, what do you think? First, what do you
Yeah.
think about the Cara Dune prediction, and then what's your prediction?
So that was going to be my prediction as well. I think I still do think it's unlikely. I think we had mentioned once upon a time that maybe Grief Karga wasn't going to make it through this season, but
Mhm.
we don't know for sure if he. It seems like it would be surprising for him to be part of this band of mercenaries making the run on Gideon's ship at this point. So, I guess I think we lost Queel at the end of last season and IG in a very kind of dramatic and poetic death. And so I would be a little surprised if they didn't, if one of the main, characters didn't die by the end of the season. But I kind of am at a loss to think of who would be the best bad. I don't think they're going to bring back Boba and Fennec from the literal dead just to kill them 2 episodes later, but you never know.
Mm-hmm.
So
You both make solid points, and it's starting to sway me a little bit to at least see that Cara Dune, as Fernandez says, Cara. Oh, I thought he was going for I was going to say Cara Doom. She's doomed, but Jeremy, what do you think?
I mean, the only reason that could maybe make sense is because I feel like they just started to give us a little bit more about her this season. Like we learned, a little bit more of the background, and when she gets the little chip and she's switching sides and all this stuff. Like, but I don't think they explored it enough to warrant like getting rid of her now, unless she takes up a lot more of this episode than I think I want her to in advance. I would be surprised if they got rid of her. I would honestly kind of be surprised if they got rid of anybody important. I just feel like originally I thought maybe Fennec was a candidate for this. I think I even said that she might die in the previous episode before I knew where it was going. But also like she's going to be in that Bad Batch show now. She's a character in that. I can't see him I don't know what the timeline is for that, but I can't see him killing her because of that. So I don't know. I think maybe the closest we'd get is maybe one of the other, if Bo-Katan comes back with the other 2 Mandalorians, maybe like one of them doesn't make it. Maybe to like maybe that's where we see like the Darksaber in action, and it emphatically cuts through some Beskar or something like that. But I can't see him killing anyone that's like an actual. I don't know.
Right.
Maybe this is such a set. This is like the clip that you play right before they kill to
the first shot of the
Smash
next
cut.
episode is going to be Cara Dune force choked.
Yeah, I guess for me, I've just assumed that Cara Dune, they're putting so much into establishing her character this season, and they've kind of set it up that she has a past to reconcile with. But I guess it feels like she kind of already has, because she's accepted the position as the Marshal. She seems to be on the up and up nowadays. But I can't shake the feeling that they're setting her up to be part of these spinoffs. So I can't see her getting killed. I still think it's Grief Karga. Even though he hasn't been around the last few episodes, neither was Queel really. He was gone for a few episodes, then they brought him back and took him out then. So I could see Grief Karga making a return. Once he hears the little green guy's in trouble, he's going to want to get involved. And I think he'll sacrifice himself. That's been my prediction. And I'm still feeling that. If I just try to do the math, who is a big enough character for it to matter, but not big enough that it's going to mess things up too much? And that's kind of what I'm leaning towards. Cole Schramm says Boba Fett, quote unquote, accidentally shoots Cobb Vanth during the big fight. Revenge for wearing his armor. So we'll see. Let's jump around a little bit. I want to definitely talk about who do we think answers Grogu's Jedi call. But before we get to that, who do you think is going to come back for this final episode? We had so many supporting characters introduced. Cobb Vanth, Ahsoka, Bo-Katan. Are we going to see all of them or some of them? What do you think? Boba Fett, I'm assuming he'll stick around.
Yeah, I think we're going to stick with our kind of main cast of heroes that we saw last episode, and I think that we will get a return appearance by Bo-Katan in some capacity and her two fellow Mandalorians, but I think that's it. I don't think we're going to get Cobb, and I don't think we're going to get Ahsoka. I think to get all of those characters somehow back at the last minute, I think would be a little too implausible. I think it makes the most sense. Bo-Katan owes Mando a favor. He helped them on their mission earlier in the season, and I think that that one rings pretty true to me. So that'd be my pick.
Mm-hmm. I agree with that. I think Bo-Katan and her crew at a minimum. But I do think Cobb Vanth can make a comeback. It just, all season, I've been waiting for the Avengers-style team-up. Just like last season, he basically rounded up all of his supporting characters that were introduced in the various standalones. I think we're going to have something similar here. And we have the setup for it. Just the fact that Grief Karga, they know he has these dark troopers now. So I think Mando will try to get all the help he can. Ahsoka, I kind of want her to come back, but I have a feeling they won't bring her back just because having a Jedi on your side might just make it might lower the stakes a little bit, make it too easy a fight. Jeremy, what do you think?
She's the Captain Marvel, if you will.
Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I guess I totally agree that they have set up enough characters where people could come back in a Avengers style or a Rise of Skywalker style, where they all came. Cool.
Thanks, Lando.
Yeah. But it doesn't feel like, it feels like they're going to go to the ship and we're going to be with who the people are with. So I think it would just be Bo-Katan and co that maybe make our appearances. And I think that's it. I think if your Grief Karga prediction were to come true, it would have to be some kind of they go to the ship, but whoops, Moff Gideon isn't on the ship because he knew they were coming and he just went back to kill somebody important to Mando just because he's a bad guy. So that could be cool, maybe. I don't know. But I don't think, I don't know. Maybe I'm looking.
That could be a taste of what we've been looking for from Moff Gideon. They get to the ship. Where's Moff? Where's Moff? Hologram phone rings. And it's him with Grief Karga and the baby, Grogu. And he says, I'm going to kill them unless you do what I want. Classic hostage situation.
See you in season 3.
All right, well, let's get to the big prediction. Grogu called the Jedi. He's looking for someone to come train him. I guess, A, do we think the call gets answered this season? And B, who do we think it is? Dan, take it away.
Well, all right. I don't think the call will be explicitly answered in the way that we suggested earlier, where a Jedi kind of swoops in and saves the day. But my gut tells me that the last shot of this season finale will be a reveal of who that character is, kind of like the reveal of Boba Fett in the first episode, and also very much like the Darksaber reveal, the moment at the end of last season where we sort of reveal the Darksaber, kind of a cliffhanger. And I think that's the most that we're going to get in terms of closure on this question. I hesitate to speak it into the universe, but I guess I will just go for it and say I believe it's going to be Mace Windu.
Oh, interesting. I've heard that, but why? I guess we don't. Yeah. He quote unquote died in the prequel trilogy, right?
Right.
But we never. It was similar to Darth Maul's death,
right?
So
yeah. I mean, beginning. Good call at Darth Maul. I think beginning with Darth Maul's what felt to me as a 10-year-old a fairly definitive and close-ended death with
because up to that point everyone else you'd seen cut in half, it was gone.
right
Yeah.
right, exactly. I mean, call me crazy, but when the guy's cut in half and falls down an infinite abyss, I sort of thought that was the end. But as we've seen over the last, I guess 20 years now with these characters that suffer what we think to be on-screen deaths. I mean, look at Boba Fett, he's back. Look at Palpatine, he also fell down an infinite abyss, he was back. Darth Maul obviously was back. Fennec also came back. So I think they've clearly established a pattern of, especially with Jedi, if we don't see them disappear, we can't assume that they're dead. And I think really all that we saw happen to Mace Windu was he lost a hand and he got cooked by some Force lightning and he fell out a window. And I don't think there's any reason to doubt that he could have survived that and been lying in wait. And it just, to me, it makes sense to honestly for them to bring back Sam Jackson as Mace Windu right now, just given the way the franchise is heading. I think there's some unfinished business narratively with Boba Fett, Mace Windu having killed Jango right in front of him. So I feel like if there's any Jedi to answer the call, to me, it's got to be Mace Windu as a, kind of a coming full circle and training baby Yoda, when old Master Yoda was sort of Mace Windu's, counterpart and fellow Jedi Master. That's what I think. I'm hopeful for the last shot of the season being a, very grizzled and kind of scarred Mace Windu.
Samuel L. Jackson says, Grogu, you think you're the only Jedi out there? I'm forming a team.
I've been recruiting. Yeah, that's so. But again, I don't think he's going to literally save the day. I think it's going to be a kind of a similar thing with Boba Fett, where he's watching from a distance, or we get something to suggest that he is the one who heard the call. That's what I think.
I like that prediction, Dan. That is a solid case you made.
This is not original. There's an Esquire article just this week that came out that basically, says all the same thing. So it's a fairly trendy pick right now, but I think that's what I'm hoping.
And by the way, in the chat, Diane, I don't know why that's a very normal name. Diane Abila says, did Maul die? And someone just answered, Brandon, Maul died in Rebels. So he would be gone by this time, I believe.
Double spoiler. That's two spoilers in one.
Yeah,
so hopefully that's someone who...
Right, Hero Shot says, OMG, dude, I think you nailed it. It's going to be Mace Windu. I apologize. I deeply apologize.
Where's my writing credit? Yeah, I mean, we'll see. I'm hopeful.
All right, Jeremy. And I feel bad.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think the most satisfying element to that would be that if they kind of button everything up without using the call, and then you get the little built-in cliffhanger of oh, that's right, I totally forgot about the call. I was so enthralled in that Darksaber Beskar duel that I didn't even remember that he had called the Jedi. And maybe they don't even need the Jedi to save the day, but they just walk into the aftermath or something, or maybe it looks like the Jedi had saved the day, but actually Grogu was doing the thing that you thought the Jedi was doing, or something like that. Yeah, that's way better than what I had said before about the Jedi saving the day when it looks like all hope is lost. I hope they don't do that now. That's gonna be a bummer if they do that. Yeah, I don't think I can top that prediction that was as well thought out as that. So I'll if you can't beat him, join him. Sure, I'll dive in on that.
Welcome, Team Mace.
I have I was thinking Ezra Bridger. Just because, and somebody in the chat was asking who is the kid from Rebels. That would be Ezra Bridger. And it just feels like we got Ahsoka, we have the Darksaber. They keep alluding to events from that series. And he is one of the few Jedi that we know for sure are still around. Or without getting into any Rebels spoilers, but I believe now, but I don't know what to say. I'm trying to be careful. I think it's going to be Ezra Bridger, though. And I do think it's going to be a swoop in to save the day moment, Captain Marvel style. I just feel like that's what they're setting up for. Secondary prediction, though, we don't know that it has to be a living Jedi. And the other thing we don't know is when he made the call, is it possible if the call was answered and we just didn't see it because Grogu fell asleep immediately after? And here's where I had a question for the two of you. being at least more of a Star Wars expert than I am. But when a Force ghost appears, does anybody see it besides the intended receiver? I think back to Return of the Jedi when Luke sees Anakin and Yoda and all waving to him.
Yeah.
I got the feeling nobody else saw that. So if there was a Force ghost that returned the call and spoke to Grogu, we might not have, Mando might not have seen it.
That's a great question, Gil. I don't know how I've been a fan of this franchise for 30 years and not had that thought that, it's sort of like the Field of Dreams thing where like only the believers or only the people who have the power can see. But I think that feels pretty plausible. I don't think Han or anybody else at the Endor celebration, like, I feel like they would have been like, wait, who are those three like ghosts?
What are those blue people over there?
What's going on? Like, is anyone else weirded out by this? So I think it's a pretty good call, but I still don't know if, I think that the show has set up too much narrative, too many stakes narratively to just say like, oh yeah, like it was answered. You just didn't see it. I think there's going to be a reveal in one way or another. I just don't know.
Well, I was thinking, so as I was mapping this out in my head, I was thinking, what if Ahsoka does come back? She talks to Grogu and she says, well, the call's already been answered. And we get a brief flashback to Yoda. Yoda answered the call and told Grogu, gave him some instructions of, maybe Ezra is out there somewhere. He's not going to be able to come to you, but here's how you find him. And that's some setup for season 2. That's what I was thinking. I don't think that's what's going to happen, but as I was brainstorming on what could possibly happen, that's where my mind went. Part of the reason why is because if Ezra Bridger or some other pre-established Jedi is going to show up from non-live action, I would be very shocked if they were able to cast someone without anybody finding out. Like, we knew Rosario Dawson was going to be Ahsoka Tano for months now. Now, Mace Windu could work because obviously we know who Samuel L. Jackson is. He's already in the Disney. He's already working with Disney.
Yeah.
I feel like the internet is talking a lot about Luke also in a lot of different ways. And the internet also really wants Sebastian, what's his name?
Sebastian Stan.
Oh yeah.
To play Luke. Yeah, to fulfilling his destiny of continually playing people that only have one arm, I guess, or have a mechanical arm or something. So I'll just say that. So it's also been said, and I think it's all. We didn't say this, I guess, in the episode, or maybe we did, but like the Yoda sitting on the stone is obviously very similar to what it looks like when Luke is sitting on his thing in The Last Jedi. So that's another, thing to throw into the ether, just so it looks like we are addressing all angles.
But you don't think, Dan and Jeremy, neither of you think it's going to be Luke? No, Dan's shaking his head.
I don't think so. Yeah, I think they've been the franchise and Mark Hamill, I think, have been pretty clear about kind of drawing battle lines and keeping this kind of in its own corner of the galaxy. I don't think it's going to be Luke.
Yeah, I agree. And I kind of hope it's not too, because I feel like I like that this is so separate. I don't need every Star Wars thing to immediately become.
Yeah. Just one thing to go back to your prediction about Ezra, Gil. I don't know if we talked about this, but an Easter egg that I had missed completely, but I found somewhere online was in episode 5 there was a loth cat walking around the city, and I've only begun watching Rebels over the last month or two, but I don't know if you've seen it. There's these little cats that are on Lothal, where Ezra's from, and he sort of there's this ongoing storyline where he kind of uses the Force to communicate and connect with these cats, and they become kind of a motif throughout the series. So there's a quick moment, I think it's in the kind of closing action sequence of episode 5 this season, when Mando, they're chasing him through the streets at night of the city. There's a quick shot of a loth cat in the street that kind of snarls at the camera and runs off. And so I think, that appearing in the same episode as we saw Ahsoka, and she also, that little owl that kind of goes with her was also on the tree nearby. So I think Dave Filoni really was putting his fingerprints all over this episode, and definitely hinting at some kind of future appearance from Ezra Bridger, but kind of like what you were saying, Gil, where you don't think that they would kind of skip a few steps and cast a animated character and have it be revealed at the same time. I feel like if they're going to give us Ezra Bridger, it's got to be kind of its own its own kind of setup where
Right.
we sort of meet him organically, kind of like we met Ahsoka, and not this sort of dramatic reveal, because
Right.
we won't
So
really
if it's going to
recognize
be
him.
Ezra, maybe it's just alluded to, and we
Yeah.
know he's coming, and we see
Yeah.
him next season.
Yeah.
They could really mess with us, and it's Sebastian Stan playing Ezra Bridger.
That would be too much.
Well, let's go to what do we think is going to be the setup? What is going to be the setup for season 3? Because at the end of season 1, it was pretty clear. He got quested to bring Grogu to his people to find Jedi. And that was the main thrust of season 2. What will be the main, I guess a two-part question. Does Moff Gideon survive? And what's the setup for season 3? Dan.
You first again, huh? Jeremy, you first. I don't want to.
Yeah, you know what? Jeremy.
I'm ready. Sure,
Yeah.
I'll go
All right.
first. I think Moff Gideon does survive.
Mhm.
I think he has some kind of upper hand way of getting away. But maybe again, that could just be me wanting more Giancarlo, because I feel like we haven't seen. It would be a shame if he were to not make it out of the finale to me, because he's such a great villain. And they've also laid the groundwork for him as a villain. Like, I don't want to have to figure out a whole new ground. They do it so slowly. Like, I'd rather just keep building. So I think he does survive. I think the season 3 setup is, I mean, maybe if we do get the Jedi thing, I think season 3 is more about Grogu trying to straighten some things out. I think we get more development from Grogu, because he's done more Force stuff, but he hasn't really changed too much from when we first meet him in season 1. So I think it'll be more Grogu focused in terms of his own development rather than like getting him to a place.
Gotcha. So we maybe we see him actually going through some Jedi training, growing up a little bit. I haven't thought about the scale of time here, but if you think about the fact that Grogu could possibly live to be 800 or 900 years old, I wonder what the future of Grogu is in this franchise. After, do we get any time skips in The Mandalorian, or after this series ends, do we get more? Does Grogu just pop up here and there? He becomes the new Yoda. I'm very curious. I haven't thought about that, but I'm curious. But
yeah, that's definitely kind of the $1 million question. I think I don't know. I think no one really wants to think this aloud, but the timeline being what it is, I think we're at this point we're about 30 or so Star Wars story years for the events of the sequel trilogy. So before Rey and Finn and everyone and old Luke. And so I think it's not crazy to think that Grogu will not survive up to that point, simply because they made such a point of saying Luke was the last Jedi,
right,
and Rey was the last hope for the last Jedi. So I think, hard to say. I mean, he's definitely part of a species that outlives humans by several orders of magnitude. But I also can't really see Disney killing that character.
Yeah, I thought you were
I sort of can't see that happening. So something
worst take of the night. Grogu might not survive the finale. Let's be real here.
Yeah, Grogu.
Put that on the thumbnail. We'll get more views, I think.
Right.
Mike Rapp, by the way, says, "Are you saying I will be paying Disney Plus for 800 more years?" I'm saying 800 or 900, perhaps.
That's right. My season 3 predictions were pretty similar to Jeremy's. I think I had Grogu embarks on Jedi training (parentheses) with Mace Windu, based on my earlier prediction, and I think we get Bo-Katan and friends returning this episode, and so I think a good chunk of season 3, at least the first half of next season, will be Mando and Grogu separated, while Grogu's off, becoming, at least trying to regain his Jedi form, while I think maybe Mando teams up with the Mandalorians to kind of fight the spread of the Imperial Remnant. They established the storyline of them trying to regain control of their home planet Mandalore. I think we'll get into some more of the kind of politics of the remaining Mandalorians, the growing threat of the First Order to be, and maybe however things end for Moff Gideon. This episode, I agree. I don't think he's going to die. I think he'll be humbled but not defeated. Maybe he'll lose the Darksaber. Something he'll be knocked down a notch or two, and that'll be kind of where we pick up next season.
Yeah, actually, you and I hit a lot of the same beats. I said Moff Gideon gets away, but Grogu is rescued. Whichever Jedi answers the call takes Grogu away to go train him, but they don't tell Mando where. because the fewer people who know where they're doing their training, the better. If word gets out that the Jedi are starting to rebuild themselves, that won't be good. So also agree with you that Mandalorian goes with Bo-Katan to on their mission to rescue Mandalore, bring the Mandalorians back to their glory. But I'll add one thing. We get a stinger at the end of the episode where Moff goes to see Thrawn, and we know that threat is coming. So that ups the stakes a little bit.
So you think there's yet a bigger fish still?
Yeah, I feel like Star Wars likes that, right? To say, you thought Snoke was the threat. Spoiler alert. Snoke was not the threat.
Snoke wasn't even really Snoke.
Exactly. So I think we're going to get something like that, which in a way, I don't love the idea because Giancarlo Esposito, we love the actor. We want him to be the chess master. He's always 5 steps ahead of you. He's a great villain. We haven't really seen that. And what I just described is essentially Thrawn's character. So if he shows up, it does kind of undercut that.
So I agree that I think there's going to be a bigger threat next season, but I feel like it's going to come from Moff Gideon, right? Like we know they've been doing all this research with the Force and stuff, right? And that's what they're using Baby Yoda for. So I was thinking that the next episode, the finale, is going to have a reveal of like what it is that they've built. And that's the thing that like Moff Gideon's actually stronger at the end of the season, even though he loses Yoda or Baby Yoda, but like he's built something, he created some like, I don't know, Force-enabled droids or something. Right. And that like kills one of our characters and it sets him out to be like really strong in season 3.
That's actually a really good call because he's now had Grogu. He's had Dr. Pershing there working on Grogu this whole time. So they might have gotten...
and to add to that, I bet also Grogu's like weakened too. And like so you also end it with like he's like close to dying, but they're going to save him in the next season because he's drained of his Force and stuff.
Right. His M count. But Dan, you were about to say something.
No, I was just going to say I wasn't sure if they had decided, that whether they weren't sure at the end of the 6th episode about whether Dr. Pershing was there, and I think we'll find out probably at the beginning of this next episode that Dr. Pershing's there, he's doing the tests on him, and that part of the plot I think will be part of this episode.
So here's what I'm picturing: spoilers for X-Men, the original X-Men with Ian McKellen. So I think Magneto is stripped of his powers, and we think he's been depowered. He's not a threat. And then it might have been a post-credit scene, but you see him kind of move his hand, and one chess piece moves ever so slightly. So maybe we think Moff Gideon has been taken down. He's down for the count, but then we see some hint of Force ability from either him or a droid, showing, as Daniel said, whatever they were doing with the midichlorians that Grogu has coursing through his veins, if Yoda creatures have veins, then we see that there's some kind of payoff to that. They've built something that's going to be a bigger threat for next season. Great prediction, Daniel. Glad we had you on.
Do you guys think that the research project, so to speak, is something other than Snoke? Or is it just Snoke?
Like, is Moff Gideon working on Snoke?
Yeah, basically.
Basically Force-enabled clones. Yeah, I mean, maybe. I think
I hope it's something else.
Yeah, like you've been saying, I don't think they want to cross that line and get directly into the thread of leading into the next trilogy. Yeah. So I think it's more dancing on the sidelines of that.
But those vats of in episode 4 when they discovered the lab, I think those clone, the failed clone bodies sort of. There was some similarities for sure.
We actually had this exact conversation, but roles were reversed because I was like, when I saw those vats, the first thing I thought was Snoke. And then you, Dan, were like, I don't know, Gil. I think they're going to try and play on the sidelines a little bit and sort of allude to it.
How times have changed. That was old Dan.
Well, I guess I think we're starting to wrap up here. I'll just ask, any other thoughts, any other predictions that we didn't mention that you want to make sure to get on the record?
The only other thing I wrote down, I said before, but I'll just officially say it again as my extra prediction, is that the Darksaber will kill one of Bo-Katan's accompanying Mandalorians. Perhaps Sasha Banks of WWE fame. Mm-hmm. Maybe she bites it at the end of the Darksaber. I think the Darksaber will kill someone.
Good prediction. Yeah. I think you're right. Totally. What about you, Dan? Anything to add?
Not really. I think we're going to get a longer episode, probably more like the first one, close to an hour.
Wait, let's each of us predict how long we think the episode's going to be. Whoever gets closest wins.
All right.
Is it closest without going over? Let's just say closest.
I'm going to say 54 minutes.
Okay, Dan, I'm going to write this down. Dan, 54 minutes. Jeremy?
I am going to say 51 minutes.
Faster.
I'm going to say 48 minutes.
Oh.
Huh.
Daniel?
Right. So we're entitled.
Daniel's 12 minutes.
47.
Daniel says 47.
So you're screwed. There's no way you win, Gil.
Wait, why not? We're not doing the don't go over. We're just whoever gets closest.
Yeah, but anyway, we'll see.
Okay. Diane says 57. Cole says 47.
Some great engagement. I'm impressed people have stuck with us this long.
This is good.
Yeah.
Jim M says 62 minutes, which would be the longest episode to date.
Hands
62.
down.
For some reason, I got excited. I was like, it's going to be 62 minutes?
That is exciting.
As if Jim has... Truth Man...
IMDb leak.
Truth Man wants to know, when is it releasing? 3:01 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. 12 a.m. Pacific.
8:01 Greenwich Mean Time.
That's right.
Actually, it might be 4 hours now that it's daylight savings. You got to check me on that. I think I only might be 4 hours ahead of you.
Wait, Truth Man is UK. Okay, so time in the UK right now, it's 2:42, which means they're 10, 11, 12, 1. They're 5 hours ahead of us.
That's GMT.
So if it's so Truth Man, 8 a.m. 8:01 a.m. There you go.
Good morning, Mandalorian.
Dan, I forget. Did we already ask you if you have any other predictions or thoughts?
Not really. I was trying to skate by with that one. Not really. I think we're gonna get a lot of surprises this episode. I hope they don't disappoint.
All right.
I'm sticking with my Mace. I'm doubling down on Mace Windu. That's what I'm gonna go with.
Okay, Mace Windu. You also said that season 3 is gonna mostly be maskless. I'm gonna say.
Yeah, I guess I'm still feeling good about that. We'll see.
Truth Man, by the way, says this is the way.
We've only heard that once so far this season, by the way. Interestingly.
Let's see.
Once
so
or twice.
Bo-Katan said it kind of.
Yep.
Well, she said it twice, I think. She said it once sardonically,
Right.
and then once just playing it straight.
Ooh, that actually reminds me. Sorry, I know we're trying to wrap up. One other dangling thread that I've been meaning to ask you guys about. So the armorer, the Mandalorian armorer, did she survive last season? I think she did, right?
Well, I think she did, but if I recall correctly, it was a sort of, I'm going to stay behind and I'm not leaving here till I've cleaned up all this
Going
armor.
down with the ship.
It felt like a going down with the ship kind of moment to me.
So it's possible that she's still out there.
It's possible.
Yeah.
I would not mind an appearance.
Yeah.
From the armorer.
Yeah.
Hero Shots, by the way, says, awesome. I'm going to stay up tonight. LOL. And says, Mace hype. 3 exclamation points. And Hero Shots. If Mace doesn't show up, you know who to go after.
That's
Dan, right here. You come back and yell at Dan.
Not release my address.
Oh, this would be a good moment to say that we'll be reviewing the episode. Probably around 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I don't know. Are you guys available earlier?
11 p.m. Greenwich Mean Time.
Let's stick with 6 p.m. 6 p.m. EST, 11 p.m. GMT. We will go live to review the episode. We'll check ourselves and all our predictions. So Hero Shots, I expect you to be there so you can yell at Dan if he hyped you up for no reason.
I'm ready. I'm ready for it.
Truth Man, do you think we will get some of the old Mandos back? I think he's talking about the old Mandos back from season 1. It may be the armorer, right?
I think they're all dead.
All right, Truth Man, they're all dead. So
Didn't they all die?
Oh, so Fernandez says, wait, not tonight. Well, technically not tonight, but in about 4 hours. So 3:01 a.m. Eastern Time. I apologize if I misled by saying tonight. Technically tomorrow morning. But with that, I do have one more thing I wanted to mention, which is a prediction for season 3. So we're going to have to check back in a year. We will learn the name of Yoda's species.
A good call. Yeah.
By the way, Fernandez, he's in Pacific time, so he's lucky. He gets to watch this at 12:01 a.m.
Ooh. Midnight Madness, Midnight Mando. So Gil, I think that's an interesting prediction.
Mhm.
I don't know if Star Wars is ever going to give us the name of that species, but because I feel like it would just be it's just this kind of thing there's been so much mystique. Like why stop now? But I think definitely some more answers about who this character is, where he comes from. Is he a descendant of Yoda? A little bit more of his backstory.
So Dan's mic drop prediction is that next season we'll learn more about Grogu.
You heard it here first.
He's got to be like a Force baby of Yoda somehow, right? Like he couldn't be not related. That would just wouldn't make sense.
I mean, yeah. I mean, I think especially after like Ahsoka said that he was raised in the Jedi Temple, I feel like everyone was like, "So Yoda and Yaddle, right?" Like we can all agree that this is what happened. So I don't know.
I did start to prepare some trivia questions because I wanted to do a head-to-head matchup between the two of you. And
Shucks.
I didn't get very far. I only have 5 questions. Let's just run through them real quick. You guys can team up, work together.
All right, let's do it.
What is the Mandalorian's real name?
Come on now. That's Din.
All right, Werner
Din Djarin.
Herzog's character was unnamed. How was he credited, though? Come on. It was the name of the client. That's right, the client.
Okay.
Oh.
It's speed round. What has been the longest episode of The Mandalorian to date? I'll accept the chapter number, the episode number, or the title, or a vague description of what the episode was about.
Well, I think it was probably the Marshal.
That's right. The Marshal at 55 minutes.
I want to redo my prediction for how long the next episode's going to be after seeing that.
Besides Yoda and Grogu, what is the one other example we've seen of a creature? I wanted to start with.
You just said it.
Well, so my plan was to start easy, and I was going to go back and forth between the two of you. So I needed to have like 2 or 3 easy questions, and that was as far as I got.
Yeah.
I got one more. This is the one we're going to end on. Who directed the most episodes of The Mandalorian? Bet you don't know that one, Jeremy.
I do not.
Oh, George Lucas.
I know who it is, but I know who it is. I unfortunately don't know how to pronounce his last name. It's Rick
Famuyiwa?
Yeah.
But you're wrong, though.
No?
He's tied with Dave Filoni. They both have directed 3 episodes.
You're right.
Wow.
They both have. Nice.
Shame. By the way, Spiritual Avier says you guys seem like cool dudes.
Hey.
Well, everyone from high school, take that.
Take note. Oh man.
All right, so clearly we're fading. I think we're getting tired, and we've got to perk up so we can watch the episode at 3 a.m.
Makes us oh so sleepy.
Moff Gideon said that. It's explaining the reference to Daniel.
Thank you.
All right, with that, let's start to wrap. Let's actually wrap up. I think we've already started to wrap up. I'm going to say thank you for watching, and thanks to everybody who's been watching the reviews every week. Dan, Jeremy, this has been years in the making. We've wanted to get together and do a podcast, YouTube. We've wanted to do something. We finally did it. It's been a blast. It's been a lot of fun. Thanks in large part to Fernandez T, Truth Man, Mike Rapp, Cole Schramm, Hero Shots, and the many people, Brandon Poland, the many people who are participating in the chat. That makes it so much fun. The Senate says, may the force be with you always. So
Senate. I'm the Senate.
See, that's another Mace Windu callback right there.
So what I'm trying to say is this is a lot of fun, and it's even more fun when people participate. So if you enjoyed this live stream, if you've enjoyed any of the videos, please go ahead and hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and hit the bell icon. Daniel, the bell icon. So you get notified the next time we do a video or the next time we go live, which will be approximately 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time tomorrow, where we'll come back, talk about the episode. What did we think of the episode? Were our predictions right? We'll talk about all of that tomorrow. You won't want to miss that. So with that, thanks for watching, and see you on the next One Take. My tech guy isn't here once again, so I have to look over here, figure out how to end the stream. And with that, I'll say, I have spoken.